The Floor Academy podcast is sponsored by Trelama, the trade labor marketplace, where businesses can find skilled trade labor, such as flooring installers, and where flooring installers and other skilled tradespeople can find permanent or project work. You can set up your profile at trelama.com, TRALAMA.com, or download the app from the Apple App Store or Google Play. And remember, Trelama is always free for skilled tradespeople. Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hedin, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Phoenix, Arizona. We are here to talk with flooring professionals from all over the country about the issues that matter to you. I want to encourage you to learn while you earn. This week's guest is Stephen Wood. Stephen owns and operates Great Alaskan Flooring Company on Kodiak Island in Alaska. After getting a start at the age of 16 in Mississippi, Stephen ended up in Alaska at private school. By 19, he had earned his GED and opened up his own showroom. He was being taught by the installers he employed as he worked alongside them on the projects that he had sold. Listen in as we discuss his journey in the industry, the challenges he faces working in a remote and small location, and how customer service can be your best selling point. Stephen Wood, are you on the line?
I'm here.
Awesome. Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this one's different. Generally, I get all like East Coast and Midwest guys, and it really messes me up. And this time, I had to call, and it's earlier by you, and you're way up north there, and yet you're still in America.
Barely.
Yeah, probably. So why don't you give us the what's the 30,000 foot view? Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? How do you do it? How'd you get into doing it? What's the summary of Stephen Wood?
Well, I'm a man of many hats. So I'd say that floor covering is sort of the driving force for all the things that I like to do. So it's a means to the end, but I absolutely love doing it. I started floor covering back in 2002 in Mississippi. And it was really my first real job other than, I used to referee soccer as a kid, but I ran into one of my friends one day and I said, "Hey, if you know anybody that's looking for somebody to work with them, let me know." And he said, "Yeah, show up at my house on Monday at 7:00. And I was like, "Okay, well, what do you do?" He goes, "Oh, I'm a floor installer." So I said, "Okay, whatever that is."
Yeah, and you were trapped from there.
Yeah, really. I mean, I worked with him for about 3 months, and that was before I moved to Alaska. And pretty much after that, I knew everything, right?
Yeah, that's sometimes how it goes for sure.
And, oh my God. I mean, 16 years old, I knew everything. And pretty much went to the school of hard knocks. I mean, it was an amazing road to where I'm at right now, because, I mean, there was often that I bit off more than I could chew, more than I knew. I would, sleepless nights knowing that the next day I had a job that I didn't know what the heck I was doing on. And really just a long road of learning from other installers. I'd have it actually, after a while, I would have installers working for me and I'd just be learning from them. And that happened for several years. Ended up opening a showroom at 19. And it was after that when I started hiring installers. And so I just kind of got a real multifaceted approach to installation. I saw a lot of different techniques, a lot of different styles, and it just kind of formed my own style after a while. So that's kind of how that went. And so I guess as I went along, I eventually became a decent installer, and started actually making good money, and started feeling like this is something I could really do for a while. So that's kind of how that happened.
Okay, so we got to back up here. Hold on. You started installing when you were 16. Did you finish high school?
No, I didn't. I went to several different schools between the 9th and the 10th grade. I was a pretty rambunctious teen, and getting in trouble and whatnot. And so I came up here having completed the 9th grade, and moved up here to a boarding school, and that's where I was kind of doing some installation while I was at this boarding school. And amidst the time there, I was able to complete my GED.
Okay.
So that, I think I was 18 when I did that. So I graduated with a good enough diploma.
Okay. Well, hey, I mean, look, you got something. Okay. And but then the next thing is, so at 19, you opened up a store. So you had more seasoned installers working for you, but you had the capital or the balls to take out a loan and open a store.
Well, actually, I pretty much started my store with nothing.
Okay.
I opened up on a wing and a prayer, honest. And there was a flooring store here in Kodiak that was closing down just because I think they were moving on to the next thing. They were moving out of Kodiak, and I thought, oh, great, they're leaving, so I'll just fill in. I'll just pick up all the business that they were having and whatnot. And it really wasn't that way at all. There were so many fly-by-night installers that had been here. They'd come for a year or two and do a bunch of terrible work and leave. This company had actually been here for, 6, 7, 8 years and built a reputation. So when they left and I was here, I was just, in everybody else's eyes, another fly-by-night, installer coming here to make a bunch of money and leave and kind of do a bunch of crappy work. And that really wasn't my goal.
Okay.
And it took a long time to be able to see that. And so, yeah, that was, it was not, going to take a big bank loan and open a big showroom. It was an evolving thing. I had a small office with samples, and I had a warehouse in a different location. And, we were there for, a year and a half, and then a paint store closed down here in Kodiak. And next thing you know, I said, well, can I afford to pay, $3,500 a month in rent? No, I sure can't. So I talked to the landlords and said, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. I want to expand my showroom. So they actually offered me like a step-in, like, they gave me a month of rent for free. And then the next month they only had to pay a quarter, and the next month only had to pay half, and kind of helped me build up to where I could actually afford paying. And it was actually pretty awesome.
It's funny what happens when you have balls and you're willing to go talk to people, and you see opportunities, and then people are willing to help you take them.
Yeah. That's really, when people that own real estate are in business too, and they understand, and if they're smart, they know that if they help build you up, that they're building an investment for themselves, a long-term investment, because, commercial properties, generally speaking, if you have somebody that's built a business in a location, they're going to want to stay there, and I think that was sort of their goal. And,
yeah,
we stayed there as long as we could until they sold the building. So
there you go.
We had to move out then.
Well, okay. And so you did mention that you're on you said you were in Kodiak, so that's Kodiak Island up in Alaska. So you're not even on mainland Alaska, which is already not hugely populated. You've now put yourself on an island that's even less populated and remote. And you opened a store and you've made it work, and you've been there how many years now? You've built the store up. It sounds like you've kind of go ahead. It was how long?
Yeah, I thought you were asking how long I'd been here, so I was just answering that.
Okay, so 18 years?
Yep,
okay.
About 18.
And so, and the shop's still there, and it's downsized, or like where's that all kind of at? Because you've been there and you've built. It sounded like we were talking before, so you built it up, but now you've kind of scaled it down.
No, actually, it's built up quite a bit, over the years. I mean, it's been up and down, just based on what kind of business we were doing, and my wife, she used to be a salesperson for me, and I'm my bookkeeper. And, after we started having kids, we couldn't do that anymore. So it was like, well, now I got to afford a bookkeeper and I got to afford a salesperson. So we kind of shrunk down a little bit so that we could start building up again. So basically I was a sole proprietor for, until 2011. And I had taken on another company name. We were sort of partner names with a roofing company. So they would take on remodels. So they were the roofing side and we were the flooring side. And in 2011, I realized that people were no longer recognizing my company as we were called Bernie Brothers Flooring. And so they were no longer recognizing, oh yeah, call Bernie Brothers Flooring. They were saying, yeah, call Steven. He works for Bernie. So, and it was like, wait a second. No, I don't work for Bernie. This is my own company. I just have a name. And so I realized that his name was no longer benefiting the company. And people had, I was the face of that company, that part of it. So I realized that it was time to break out and incorporate, which is what I did. And that's when the Great Alaskan Flooring was born. We kind of dreamed up the name, went through the articles of incorporation. And so, that was another step in building. After that building sold, we ended up partnering up with a company that does custom art framing. So they share our showroom with us in our new location. We've been there for about, I think 6 or 7 years now. And so they have, within our showroom, they have art displays. They do custom, framing for people's art. So there's local artists from Alaska. And so we kind of have built this dynamic between the two companies, which is actually pretty cool because you've got, art framing is not something that somebody has a tight budget. They're not going to be doing framing.
Correct.
Let me just put it,
I know.
Something that people have expendable income, usually high-end taste. And so the problem that I was having before was that, there wasn't a whole lot of foot traffic, and my salespeople, if there wasn't, but 1 or 2 people that would come in a day, they'd, be kind of dying of boredom, and whatever else. So we've got a whole nother business in our showroom, and, it helps the morale of my salespeople, and it brings more foot traffic. So you've got high-end foot traffic coming in all the time, which has been incredible for our business model. So where are we at right now? We have, basically tripled our square footage where we were from when we were in the other location. Our big goal has been to be able to stock enough product that we don't have to have people go to Home Depot and Lowe's on the mainland.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a big issue is, how do you keep the business on the island? How do you keep people from going to the box stores and buying, they think they're getting it for cheaper, but then they ship it and they realize, oh my God, I just paid more than I normally would have.
Yeah.
So that's been our goal. And that's where we're kind of where we are right now is we finally gotten to the point where we're able to ship enough products in to get our cost base down to get our shipping price down enough to where we can actually, supply the product for, a reasonable price.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so that's what I'm really interested in talking about. So we've
right.
gotten there is that the dynamic of running a business is hard enough, right? Like I live in a city of 4.5 million people in Phoenix. Man, if
right.
another contractor starts up, it doesn't matter. There's 4.5 million people here. Like you're either going to make it or you're not. And people may not even notice you, but there's plenty of work to go around. It's not going to hurt me. I can spin on a Home Depot from my house. I've got 7 different flooring distributors in the city, if not more than that. There's like one of the local suppliers is Big D's. They've got like 5, 6, 7 locations here in Phoenix. Another one is Tom Duffy. They've got, I think 3 or 4 locations. Like, man, I can get there's so much flooring stuff. It's not even funny. And then there's you stuck on an island. You don't even have a Home Depot.
Yeah.
And you're like,
thankfully,
I gotta get this stuff in to be able to do it, to get costs down. So what has it been like trying to build this business and run it, yet you're stuck in this remote location? Because that's got to have its own set of challenges behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always a battle because of, well, for one, demographics, right? So like, you're in a big city and one of your installers is, not showing up or acting up or, their work sucks or whatever. Fire them, move on, find another guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's 10 more installers down the line that are ready to do good work for you, right? That's not the case here. I mean, we're really limited on, quality skilled salespeople, quality skilled installers. Those are a huge struggle. So, there's that side of things with the demographics for employees, but then there's the point that you brought up, which is how do you balance out the product into things? Like, how do you have enough product on the shelves to be able to supply people's jobs, and keep them from going to the box stores, keep the price down enough? It's a very, very difficult thing. I mean, you have to have, 50 or 100,000, in inventory to even be able to scratch that availability number, so if I ship a pallet of vinyl plank flooring, so let's say some rigid core vinyl plank, it's going to cost me about 80 cents a square foot to ship that product here to Kodiak from Seattle.
Ooh.
And about 80 cents a square foot. Now, if it's some cheaper stuff, I might, 60, 55 or 60 for some of the thin stuff. But generally speaking, SPCs, rigid core, they're going to be about 80 cents a foot, right? Well, if I'm able to ship a container on the barge and I can fill that up, I get 44,000 pounds. I can ship product for under 15 cents a square foot.
Mm-hmm.
But you fill up a container, that's $50,000-$60,000 worth of product.
Yeah.
So,
correct.
Can you move it fast enough? Is it the right color? Is it the right product?
Yeah.
Is it all those things come into play, and it's been a balancing act. It really has, because you keep something on the shelves too long, and it's you got shelf life problems. You got adhesives and grout and mortar, and all that stuff has shelf life. So you got a pallet of it sitting there, and whoops, I guess I didn't need all that.
Yeah. Well, and that's one part of it, but another one is, I run into a problem with a concrete subfloor here, and I can, the same day, as long as it's a decent hour still, right? Like I can run down to the distributor, I can pick up my Shonox or my Oozin or whatever I need, buy the self level, take it back, mix it up, and I'm good to go. You don't have that option.
Yeah.
Like, how do you tell people they're delayed? Like, how long is it going to take you to get something from the mainland on the boat over if you don't have it in stock?
Yeah, it's been that part of things is definitely a struggle. I try to keep versatile products in stock, prep products that are versatile.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that, oozing, everybody pronounces that one differently. Oozing, it's kind of like moppe, whatever.
Yep.
They tend to have more versatile subfloor levelers, that I've had experience with. I know Shonox does too. Concrete, wood, not a big deal, or just throw this additive in there if you are going over this substrate or that substrate, versus having to get an entirely new product, right?
Correct.
And so I try to keep versatile products in stock, and that has been a good thing. So if I know I got, 30 or 40 bags of, oozing 157 or whatever, I know that I can use that in multiple applications. Maybe throw some fiber in it if you need to, or, keep two different primers on hand. I got the 260 and the 280 primer. I got both of those. So depending on what the substrate is, but, really that has been, but I may never use it like for 6 months. I might have 6 months may go down the line, and I've got, $3,000 worth of products sitting there that I don't need, but when you need it, you need it.
Correct.
So more specialized products that I don't want to keep on the shelf, it could take 1.5 to 2 weeks to get, and that's if it's in stock in Anchorage. So you're absolutely right. I get into the middle of a job, realize that, let's say there's moisture problems. I don't keep moisture mitigation products in stock. There's no way. Because there's so few slabs here. And when you do run across a slab with, moisture problems, it's, usually quite a bit of product. And, I'm not going to keep that in stock because it's going to go bad before the next time I use it.
Yeah.
So, oh, look at that. You got a slab, you got moisture problems. I'm sorry. The entire job is now delayed for 2 weeks. And then I got to bump out all my other projects because of that,
Well, and how do people take that up there, right? Like how do you address that issue with the client of, I'm sorry, this is this issue. It's going to take me 2 weeks to remedy it. So I'll get back to you.
Usually people here are really understanding with that. I mean, I tend to think that we have some of the best clientele in the world here. I mean, really, occasionally you'll get that one customer that's just terrible to work for, but people are really understanding. They understand the lifestyle of the island. They know that, sometimes some of our real specialty jobs, I mean, the products can take 6 to 8 weeks to get here, just to get here, from the mills in Georgia or whatever. So people, generally speaking, are really understanding about that. Now, when it comes time for tenant improvements and they got somebody to move in, like, I need this now, those are the ones that are not patient. I got somebody to move in, and if you don't get it done by the 30th, my tenant's not gonna have a place to live.
Yeah.
Those are the problems.
I think that's common because I get that here, right? They find out that the tenant's leaving and they're like, they call me up and they're like, I got a tenant moving out on the 15th and a new one moving in on the 20th. Can you redo the whole 3,000 square feet? And I'm like, no, I'm booked out for 6 weeks. I can do it then.
Yeah.
Well, I got to move them in. I'm like, well, I got 6 weeks worth of work before you. So what do you want to do? I think landlords are just that way.
And that's actually a pretty cool angle that we've been able to work with. Not all the time, for us, it's not necessarily first come, first serve. And we usually let people know that, we say, we're a diverse company. We do all sorts of things. We don't just do flooring. We have a paint store. We have a blind store. There's been a period of time where we've installed countertops and, all sorts of things like that. Mm-hmm. And so we're not always first come, first serve. It's more like priority, where do priorities lay? And I'll usually ask a customer that and say, do you have a timeline that you need this done in? Like, are you leaving on vacation or do you have family coming into town that you're trying to get this done for, so that your house can be looking nice? And I put all those factors in on the schedule and say, okay, this customer wants to have it done by the time their grandkids are coming in or whatever. Oh, this is a tenant improvement. I got to bump them up. I got a house that's going to be closing on the 15th. They got to have it done before closing, so that's kind of, because we don't have, 3 and 4 and 5 crews running, that's pretty much the way we have to run our schedule. So when something puts a 2-week delay on the job, it's kind of like some of those jobs out there that you've, had on hold. You've had their product in the shop for a while. Generally speaking, it's like, hey, we got an earlier schedule. It's usually not too big of a snafu, we're not sitting on our hands.
Okay. No, I mean, that's an interesting way of doing it, is as long as everybody's kind of on board. And it sounds like just because you have that island lifestyle, and that's a funny thing to say because you generally think like tropical island like Hawaii, but
yeah.
You have that remote location thing going on that everybody sort of understands that, like, it just seems like when you get into these remote locations that life takes a step back from like the hustle and bustle of these major cities like I live in. And It's just a little bit easier going. People are a little bit more laid back and they just kind of get that it's just a floor, right? Or it's just a paint project and like, we're going to get it done. It's going to happen by the time we need it done. And so everything's going to be okay. And we'll do it when we do it. And so being able to get people to work with you on that, it's got to be a nice dynamic and take a little bit of stress off of you of like, I have to get it done now. Cause I do hard dates and I tell people like, if I tell them 8 days, dude, I got to be out of there in 8 days because I've already got the next person lined up and then the next person lined up. And I don't want to call 10 people and bump them all a couple days because I screwed up or there was a day of pouring self-level. Like if I got to make it up and start putting in 14-hour days, we're putting in 14-hour days to get it done. So it's there's two really different dynamics on that. And I think it probably takes some stress off you, does it not?
It really, it depends, it depends on what my employees are like during that time because, honestly, that can be, I'm cool. I can roll with the punches, but it's not always that easy for employees, because you tell them and say, hey, I want you to go and demo on this job. And, and then you demo and you're like, hey, we got to wait for some leveler or whatever to get here. So I'm going to send you over to this other job, and go get started on that. That can be a little frustrating, like not being able, and totally, I get it, but, people generally, like you say, do tend to roll with the punches. I mean, when you live in a place and if the boat doesn't make it here, you literally can go to our local grocery store. We have Safeway up here. And literally, like, the entire produce aisle can be bare. I mean, nothing there for like a week and a half or two. We just literally had that happen.
Oh, man.
And yeah, I mean, you just kind of go, well, okay, I'm not getting any fresh vegetables for a week. I can go through a fit about it, but that's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
Kind of is what it is. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, it does kind of take the load off a little bit, knowing that people tend to be a little bit more understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, now from the employee side, right? Like you obviously have a limited population, and the trades, no matter what trades you're in, no matter what part of the country you're in, and probably almost what part of the world you're in at this point, they're all kind of hurting, right? Like kids aren't getting involved as much. They've pulled out pretty much all of the vocational training from high schools. So what's it like trying to find young help up there that wants to jump in and is willing to like come and do the hard work, but they realize that at the end of the tunnel, there's like a lucrative career?
Yeah, that is a skill that I have not mastered. To be honest with you, let me tell you, not of my own accord, but for some reason, I am really good at creating my own competition. I don't get it. I mean, I'm serious. I have taken guys that have construction experience, or whatever, some kind of construction experience, and they come and work with me. My friends, usually these are friends, brothers basically to me. And we work together, and we're I'm teaching them things and teaching them the tricks of the trade and basically how I learned, and 1 year, 2 years, 3 years later, next thing you know, they're coming to me saying, hey, I want to do something else. I want to go be in construction, or I'm moving off island, or, whatever the case may be. But I've got, I think three people on island that I've worked with as partners, or they've been my employees that now are either working for contractors that were my customers, or are basically their own freelance company. Just like, oh God, Okay, so back to your question about young guys. There's not a whole lot of young people that come through here and say, Kodiak is my lifestyle. I want to make a long-term game here in Kodiak. Generally speaking, when the kids, graduate from here, most of the time they're going to go off to college, and they're going to go and move off to Anchorage, or they're going to move down south and do their thing, and they might come back to Kodiak, but for whatever reason, it's not often the case where the high schoolers are just, this is a fishing town. It's a big fishing town. So, they do have trades, vocational training in our high school, but they certainly are not encouraging floor installation. They're teaching them welding, aluminum welding, steel welding. They're teaching them, auto mechanics, because we have a huge marine industry here in Kodiak. And so, yeah, there's guys that come up through the ranks and they learn how to weld, and next thing you know, they're making $50 an hour as a boat welder, know? So, yeah, that's kind of how that looks.
You got that deadliest catch money up there on that island. You got Discovery paying your bills.
We have that. Yeah, there's definitely that. And I mean, yeah, we actually, we do. Those are our customers. A lot of those captains are our customers. Or the deckhands. I mean, they're making great money.
So, okay. So, I mean, you've got a couple guys, and I think I want to say it's normal for guys to run off on you, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's how it goes. Okay. You're going to teach somebody something. They look at the invoices that you're handing the client. They're like, oh my gosh, look at all that money. And then they don't always realize what it's like to be the boss.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
there's two ways to look at it. And it's the classic story of what if we train them and they leave, and what if we don't train them and they stay?
All right.
And so you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But honestly, I think the only proper way is, what if we train them and they leave? At least we trained them and they left, and now they're doing quality work against us and raising the bar in the community.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I've known guys that are that way. Actually, one of my top tile setters that would come up here from Seattle, he was that way, and he had it. He had it down pat with his guys. I mean, he would train them up from the beginning. He'd say, the first year I'm going to lose money on you. The second year I'm going to make money on you, break even. Third year you're my go-to guy. I'm making all that investment back on you. And then after that, you're on your way. You're your own journeyman. I mean, and he would make some quality tile setters, floor installers and tile setters. And I just have never been, because we're an island of 13,000 people. It's like, if I keep doing that, I'm going to train myself out of business. It's like, it's really tough,
Yeah.
and, you want to train somebody and teach them all the right ways. And, that has been a struggle for me. But I think that, I'm not the type that wants to keep my employees dumb and, I mean, I know there's that type out there too, keep them dumb and keep them hungry,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not that way.
No, there's too much risk in it for me. If they're not going to do it right, and you're going to keep stuff from them, it's not worth it. You teach them everything,
Yeah.
and that's one of the reasons the podcast is here, right? Like you need to know you need to know the hand skills, you need to have the business skills, and you need to have like personal development and life skills. And you got to be able to be well-rounded so you can get out there and actually be successful and make it. Like, I don't want to churn out people that are going to bring the industry down, as I'm sure most people don't, but I don't think everybody always realizes it. I'd rather sit there and talk numbers with my guy and go over, why today was a good day or why today was a bad day, what we could have done to do better, what little things we can do to make the clients happy, and why, like, leaf blowing their yard when we're just trying to clean off the table that we were cutting on all day of sawdust makes a huge difference. Like, if we can do the little extra, then they don't even notice, but subconsciously they probably do. And so if we're teaching them all these things, like I said, right, we're going to raise the bar of the people entering around us. Now, in your situation, when there's only 13,000 people, well, there's only so many. Like I said, Phoenix is a different story of 4.5 million. Like, adding another guy to the pool, there's probably a guy retiring, so it balances out. 13,000 people. I mean, how many installers can you really afford to have in 13,000 people? Because not everybody's going to get a floor every year.
Right. Yep. And that's definitely, it's always that balance. So, but we've been blessed, be able to stay busy.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a couple weeks here and there, that, kind of slow here and there, but it's not because there's nothing to do. It's just, you kind of choose to be slow a little bit,
and got to do that every once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's for whatever reason, we've been blessed to be able to stay busy. So that's great, and, yeah, always learning.
Mm-hmm.
Always learning.
Now, are you aligned with any dealers with the store? Are you like I don't even know what they are, like a Mohawk color center or a Armstrong color center? I don't even know what it is. Like, whatever.
Well, no, that's never been one of my goals is to become, like a Mohawk Color Center or I forgot the name of the Shaw line as well, but no, we're not. And the reason for that is because, with these color centers and whatnot, they expect that you're going to be 100% or a large percentage of your sales are going to be in their brand, in their, and they're going to invest money in you too. They're going to help you build your image, so that you come up to these standards of Color Center, whatever it may be. Right. And we're a highly diversified company. And, if you came into my showroom, you would see, I don't know, maybe 1,100 square feet of showroom space, maybe, and in that 1,100 square feet, you've got, 3 different vinyl plank lines. You've got 2 different sheet vinyl lines. You've got, 3 different carpet lines, and then you've got tile, and you got blinds, and you got paint displays. And, so I'm not even sure in the world of, aligned dealers, if even my entire showroom would be enough to show just one brand.
Yeah.
I've been in flooring stores that are, 10,000 square feet of just showroom space. And it's just that's not feasible. That's part of that balance here of being able to crack that nut. Cause it's just like, the same thing with I have distributors and salespeople that are trying to, they want to send me the newest and latest, greatest samples. And I'm like, okay, well, you want to send me your sample? I'm throwing out another sample rack. I'm throwing it in the trash.
Yeah.
It's not, that's just the way it is. So we are, I know this is a flooring podcast, but I mean, we are, aligned dealers in window covering. We do have, a pretty high status in regard to Hunter Douglas in our window covering industry.
Okay.
So that is one thing that we're, we focus on and becoming, a high. They have different ranks of dealers that you could become, and I think we're considered Centurion dealer, which is their second highest or whatever. But that's not floor covering.
Well, no, but that's fine. I mean, honestly, this is it's called Floor Academy because I'm a flooring installer, and it's for flooring installers. But honestly, any business person, any entrepreneur, any business owner could listen to this and get some kind of takeaway from it. And so once again, you have a different element going on up there that if you just did flooring, your store may not be as successful and be able to hold its own. And so having the paint and having the window coverings, like you're balancing out what your skills can do and making it work for your area. And it's not to say that somebody couldn't do that down here on the mainland, but generally speaking, like there's bigger populations and you can specialize in one thing and just say like, this is what my store is going to be. You don't have to diversify that much, but there's places that do it. I know, my friend Rachel Berlin up in Wisconsin, they have countertops, they do flooring. I think they have window coverings. They, there's multiple things going on in their store.
Yeah. And that's the name of the game when you're in a small, demographic is that you've got to make, out of one house, you need to make that, what do I got to do to make that a bigger ticket item, and it's not trying to upsell somebody all the time. That's not the point. The point is, I think the statistics are that 80% of the people that do floor covering are doing window covering at the same time, or they're painting at the same time. And if, I'm only doing your floor covering and let's say it's a $5,000 floor job, but I sold your paint and I sold your blinds. It's not a $5,000 job anymore. It's an $8,000 job, or it's a $12,000 job.
Correct.
You know, and that's one customer. And if you can do that over and over again, you know, that it helps you crack the nut, you know, and
correct,
and, so to speak, and also on the bookkeeping side, you know, if we already are paying a bookkeeper, we're already paying a sales guy, we already have the infrastructure built for a showroom, you know, it takes, you know, the burden off of saying, well, I'm going to go start a paint store. Well, okay, you want to start a paint store, you got to have a showroom, you got to have a salesperson, you got to have a warehouse. I already have that. You want to start a blind store? Well, you need a salesperson and a bookkeeper and a showroom. I already have that.
Yeah.
You know, and so we're maximizing the retail dollars being able to be made out of the square footage in a showroom.
I get it. And what I think once again, it goes down to you have a smaller population center that you can make that work with your scheduling. Whereas like down here, if I was doing that, right, like I may be doing flooring for like 2 weeks straight, and then I'm going to have to go do all these window coverings, and then I'm going to have to go do these paint jobs. And then like I could be pulled so many directions that I wouldn't ever be able to grow one aspect of that company as an owner operator, right? Like as the guy that actually has to go out, like I'm doing everything, right? I'm selling the jobs, I'm installing the jobs, I'm painting the jobs, I'm doing all of it. Like I'd be pulled so many directions that I don't know that you would ever be able to grow something larger.
Yep.
But you know, I think for you, it's a much better setup because there's less potential work. So you have to be able to capitalize on all aspects.
Absolutely. Yep. That is definitely the case. Yeah. I mean, but I think that's not even just, you know, remote island, Alaska. I mean, that's, you know, any small town USA is the same thing, you know, unless you're wanting to, you know, remote parts in the US. I mean, unless you're wanting to go travel to the big cities, you know, it's the same thing. If you want to have a showroom, you're going to have to be able to, you know, provide multiple services, you know. It's similar, I would say.
No, I can see that. You know, you get, once again, smaller populations, smaller, you know, less skilled people. Just you got to make it work the way you can make it work and grow from there.
Yeah, I would think that one advantage, though, of being in a small setting like we are is that generally speaking, like the other floor installers that are on the island, you know, it doesn't take much for everybody to pretty much be on the same page pricing wise. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot. When I first got here, the installers, you know, I'd call around and they're like, oh yeah, we make, I don't know, $5 to $7 a yard for carpet, you know, like $5 for a plush, $7 for Berbers and whatever. Right. And I got here and I was like, I don't want to install carpet for $5 a yard. I'm charging $9 a yard. Next thing you know, they heard that and they were like, well, shoot, I don't want to install carpet for $5 a yard. I want to install it for $9 a yard too. So, I mean, that's all it took.
You raised the prices for everybody. Yeah.
It was pretty, you know, I mean, there's a little bit of haggling, you know, you get customers that are going to go back and forth between you and get bids and stuff. But, you know, generally speaking, if the installers know like, oh, well, going rate for laminate here is $3 a foot, you know, that's pretty much what you're going to get, you know?
Yeah.
So that's been an advantage, I would say. You know, they pretty easy to hop on board with price increases, you know?
No, I think that's a good point, is that everyone can, you know, a lot of the discussions you see in the online groups are, what are you charging for this? And what are you charging for that? And I couldn't charge that in my area. And I can't believe you charged that much. And that's an interesting dynamic to be able to get everybody on the page pretty quickly. And it's not like you're price fixing. It's that you all need to make a certain
No,
lifestyle, and this is what it costs to be able to do that. And so Phoenix is, once again, it's such a different market. Like, I can go on Craigslist right now and I can find a guy to take concrete off my slab for 90 cents a square foot. Now, he's going to jack
right,
up my slab and put a bunch of divots in it that I'm going to have to fix. And he's going to create a bomb of dust as he takes it all up. Whereas, I'm charging $350 a square foot to do dustless tile removal with my specialty equipment.
right.
And people still look at me like I'm crazy, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's so much money." I'm like, "Yeah, well, you don't know what it's like the other way." So I'm not going to
You don't want to find out.
exactly, but I'm not going to be able to, just because I'm doing it and there's other people doing it doesn't mean that the market's going to get fixed in a week, a month, 6 months. It would take me years of fighting against it, and I would never win because there's just so many people, and there's budgets for everything. And I'm sure there is up there too, right? Like, there's people that just, they can't afford the $3 a foot, and they'll find some like Joe Schmo that did his own floor, and they'll pay him $1.50 to do a floating floor. But it's,
it happens. People do it themselves, and
yeah,
that's I think everywhere battles, the do-it-yourselfer, era, or I don't even think it's an era. It's just is what it is. You're always going to be dealing with do-it-yourselfers, and and you. I do generally, just because it's an island, I try not to be, look down on that or whatever. If somebody says, no, we're going to do it ourselves, and say, well, if you're going to have a tough time, when it gets to this part and that part, just feel free to call me. You can pay me hourly. I'll come over and I'll kind of talk you through some of that. It's like, shoot, I had a guy a couple of years ago that was dead set on doing his own hardwood job. He didn't even buy the hardwood from me, and he didn't know how to get it started. And I was like, well, you want me to help you get started? $350 an hour. I'm not going to go out on your job and tell you how to do it. I mean, I've got almost 20 years of experience, and you want me to tell you how to do your job? And he was glad to pay it. He was like, no problem. So I went out there for a couple hours, and, of course I gave him some time, no problem. But it was like, okay, if you're that desperate, fine.
Yeah. Unreal. That's so funny.
Well, I mean, somebody wants to pick your brains all year. I'm not a jerk that way, really. I mean,
no, and I don't think you should.
It's like, somebody wants to FaceTime me for a few minutes. Hey, I don't know how to do this, and say, well, I can't tell you how to do that on FaceTime. I'm sorry. Like, that's, there's a reason that, I'm a professional, and, it's experience hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, I'm with you. I tell everybody, like, if you're having problems, call me. If I can answer it, I can answer it. Otherwise, I can point you to at least I'll find you a decent YouTube video that's correct for you to watch so you can figure it out. But
yeah,
a lot of guys get scared of offering up the information, and they're like, "You're killing the trade, and you're taking jobs away from us." And I'm like, no, because just because they wanted to do it, their friend Sally isn't going to want to do it, and they're going to say, go hire Kyle. He's really nice and friendly and helpful. So, exactly. I may not have got that one. I got the other one. And then how many people does Sally know? And she's going to say, oh, he's nice and friendly and knows what he's doing.
Yeah. No, you get the word of mouth, and that's golden. If somebody's giving you a referral, on word of mouth, I mean, you're already ahead of the game,
mm-hmm.
In that way, because they trust you. They trust your opinion. At that point, they're gonna trust your opinion on what products to use and what, maybe even, no, I wouldn't recommend, putting that padding in here. I mean, that's, why don't you spend a little bit more and get some lifetime padding in here? And, they trust your opinion more. It's not that you're taking advantage of them. It's just, It makes the road a lot smoother.
Yes. Well, okay, so let's take that back, because I know you said, okay, so the flooring store shut down, you opened yours, and you were like, oh, this is a great business opportunity. Everybody's going to come to me. And nobody came to you because it was there's a lot of fly by night guys. So
Yep.
how did that word of mouth, how did that reputation have to take root for you in order to become the company
Yeah.
that you were today?
Yeah. So, like I told you, at first, when I first started installing, just as an installation company, I wasn't getting any traction. And then I went to my friend who had the roofing company, because they did remodels and stuff as well. I tagged on to him and took his name. I basically paid him to use his name. And that actually gave me a really good rocket boost that I needed to be able to get that name recognition. So as I began to do that, I realized, people, it was more than just, I'm calling, this company. People started realizing that they were calling Steven, right? That I kind of talked about that earlier, but the model that I went for was, I knew I was learning still, right? I mean, I'm still learning, right? But I knew I was still in that stage where I was vulnerable. There was things that I didn't know that were valuable pieces of information to make jobs go smoothly, So anyways, my motto to myself was, no matter what, I'm going to walk out with a happy customer. I've had jobs that something happened that was outside of my control, that the customer wasn't happy, whatever it was, if it was, the floor wasn't perfectly flat, and I didn't take the time to talk them through that and say, well, your floor's not flat, like that, just out of an experience, right? If they made a complaint, I would do whatever it took to make that customer happy.
Mm-hmm.
If I lost money, I made that customer happy. If I had to rebuy all new flooring and go install it for free, I made them happy. And, maybe there was a few times where people took advantage of me over the years, very few. But the point is that people got it ingrained in them that this guy stands behind his work, and obviously the last, 10, now probably 12 years, there hasn't been a whole lot of buying jobs, none pretty much, but we all make a mistake here and there. Something happens. It's an oversight. Something happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
But over the course of time, people realize, like, no, he's a professional. He knows what he's doing. He's going to make the recommendation that is for your best interest. My builders know that. My clients know that. The real estate, the real estate investors that have apartments, they know that. And it's just maintaining that reputation of, I'm doing this to better your business. What is it? Am I giving you a better padding that's going to make your carpet last longer so you don't have to come back to me again in a year? Is it, I'm giving you a 20 mil wear layer versus a 12 mil layer? It's taking the time to explain that to them and say, this is the difference in this type of finish and that type of finish, or this core and that core, rigid core versus solid vinyl. Like, what are the differences?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I'm huge on education with clients. I think that's the best thing, the best value we can give them is letting them be able to understand how to compare the apples, the oranges, and the plums. Because every contractor is going to come in and everyone's going to bid it differently. And if all they can compare is price, then you did them a disservice. So when you allow them to have the education to make the informed decision, That's when you can sell at higher price rate, like the higher prices, and command the higher prices because you're providing more value. And it sounds like that's what you're doing, is you're going in with honesty and integrity and education, and you're looking out for their best interests to make sure that they don't necessarily have to, like you said, like they're going to get a better carpet padding so they don't have to, carpet padding so the carpet doesn't wear out as fast. So, they don't have to come back in 5 or 10 years. They can come back in 15 years. So you're costing yourself money, but you're gaining yourself a lifetime client. So it doesn't actually cost you money.
Yeah. And they tell their friends that too.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been it's a momentum thing. You build that over time, and I guess it just kind of happened, as along the way. I mean, I used to make less money than my employees made, like when I was first starting, really. I mean, my main installer would make $20,000 a year more than I would make. I'm just like, that was what happened, and, obviously things kind of turned around differently as momentum built, but it was, I looked at it as investing in my company.
Mm-hmm.
If it was losing a couple $1,000 on a job, then, obviously you can't do that too much or you can't eat, right? You can't pay your bills.
Correct.
But to me, that, being in a small town, it was absolutely necessary to do that. I'm going to do this because I think somebody said to me a number of years ago, for every one negative review you get, it takes 10 good reviews to wipe out one negative review.
Sounds about right.
And I think that's even more so in a small town. If you got one negative review, it's probably more like 20 good reviews before that wipes away one bad, And so it's the name of the game is whatever you have to do to make sure your client is happy. And sometimes that's knowing from the beginning that that's not your client. This is not my client. You walk into a situation, you say, I'm not going to service this person, not because I'm too high and mighty, but no matter what I do, I'm not going to make them happy.
That is a huge
because I'm not willing to work
there.
for that cheap. I'm not willing to work as cheap as they want me to work. I'm not willing to work with the products that they want me to work with. I can't do the timeline that they want me to be in. Whatever the case may be, anytime somebody's starting a business and they ask me for advice, first thing I tell them is you got to learn how to say no.
Both of those are so good. Not everybody's your client, and you have to know how to say no. That is absolutely amazing advice right there. All right. I'm sorry. We gotta be done, my friend.
No, this has been fun. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me.
Yeah, no, thank you. I love the insights. I love being able to see how similar and yet how different it is. I think it's really interesting, but I think there's a lot of powerful stuff in being able to compare and contrast here, like
absolutely.
Word of mouth can spread like wildfire in a little town. Whereas in Phoenix, like it'll spread, but not necessarily as fast. Although these days with the online Facebook groups, man, it can get around real quick about companies. But people no one ever talks about the good experience, right? Like people don't go out of their way and be like, this is the best company ever. It was so great. But when they have a bad experience, it's like you said, right? Like it's hard to overcome that because man, I'm still talking about a bad paint job in the company that did it. This was 10 years ago. I hate that company. I do not like the way they treated my wife. I don't like the paint job they gave me. And so when people go asking for paint recommendations, they say, all I can tell you is don't hire this company.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's been a decade. I'm still upset. I live in the house. I'm looking at the paint job right now. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But no. Oh my gosh.
Very true. Yeah.
If people got questions for you, they want to reach out to you, they want to look at your work, where can they find you on the interwebs?
Well, they can find me on Facebook. I'm a member of the Floor Installers of America Facebook group, Global Tile Posse. And I do have a webpage, Great Alaskan Flooring at, .com, greatalaskanflooring.com. Our web page is not that great because we're a small island. So I don't really need a great one. But we do have Facebook page, the Great Alaskan Flooring Company. And but if you're looking for me specifically, my profile is FR, that's Fox Romeo Stephen, Stephen Wood. And that's short for Father Stephen. So that's my other name, my other hat that I wear.
Well, we're gonna have to visit that. Well, let's visit that quickly. So, you didn't finish high school, but you went to school enough to become a priest.
Yeah. Well, yeah. While I was running a business full time, I did several things. I became a missionary pilot. So I went into aviation, bought airplanes, became a missionary pilot, and I did 5 years of seminary to become a priest. So,
do you have your own little place on the island? Like you hold services, or do you work as a father at a local church? Like, what are you doing?
Well, I'm actually the assistant priest at the church here. Interestingly enough, this is like Kodiak Island of all places is like the hub for Orthodox Christians in America. Like, this is where it came into America. So it's kind of like, it's not just a little spot on the map. This is actually a really significant area. Anyway, so, yeah, we hold services. We have, I'm the assistant, so I'm not in charge of everything. So, which is nice, right? I'm busy running a business.
Yeah.
Busy flying airplanes and, laying floors.
Well, nice. Right on. Good for you. You found out education's important. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. I didn't do so great in school, but I graduated with honors out of seminary. Imagine that, right?
You know what, man? I did all right in high school. Didn't want to go to college. Finally went to a for-profit art school. Learned that you could get a D and still get a degree because it was a for-profit art school. Got my D's, got my worthless degree that any respectable 4-year college would laugh at me about. And here I am finding out everything I can about flooring and doing this podcast to put good information out, right? Like if I can sit down and listen to an audiobook on entrepreneurship or leadership, or I am all about trying to learn stuff these days. So it's funny how you evolve through the years, and you I watch my son at 11 right now, and he hates school. He's hated school since he was a kindergartner, and I've never seen a kindergartner hate school. Man. And I'm just like, man, you got a long way to go, and you don't even know, you will one day thirst for knowledge, son.
Yep. So true. Yep.
Oh, it's so funny. But all right. Thank you for that. That's a very interesting story. And
yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for taking the time to do this with me. It's an honor for me to be able to do that. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you too. And I look forward to staying in touch and talking and being able to see what's happened up there. And man, I'm middle of nowhere to me.
Yeah, well, come on up here.
Oh, no.
With me for a vacation.
I don't go places it gets cold. Well, my wife makes me go to Wisconsin, but I don't go places it gets cold besides there.
Yeah, right on.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good night, and I'm sure we will talk soon.
All righty. See you now.
Bye. That's all the time we have for this week. To keep the conversation going, head on over to the Floor Academy Facebook group. Be sure to subscribe so you can hear each and every episode. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and most major podcast directories. Don't forget to leave a review and let us know what you think about the show. If you would like to be a guest, have questions or feedback, you can email us at flooracademypodcast@gmail.com. You can help support the show by becoming a patron over at www.patreon.com/flooracademy. Remember to learn while you earn.